Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Overwatch Open Division Australia Grand Final. I'm Pyronius, and I'm here with our whole casting team, and we are going to be bringing you this coverage live. So it is myself, it is the whole team. We've got Infinity here, we've got GL Phoenix with us, and Cyber Waste as well, and we are all super pumped to be heading into this Grand Final match.
Yeah, and it really will be interesting watching X69 Gaming taking on Paradigm Shift, which they have met before in round 7, which did result in a 3-1 to X69, who did go unbeaten through the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. But Paradigm Shift definitely looking to rewrite history there and crown themselves as the king of Open Division. Both these teams have already qualified for their place in Contenders Trials, but this will be a good chance to basically improve their seeding in the Trials phase, maybe give them a slightly easier run of the Trials competition.
Yeah, and the teams have really done what they needed to with these playoffs, getting to trials, which is what they wanted. But now it's just trying to get know that you've won the first season of Open Div of 2019, and that's all it's playing for at the moment. Playing for pride and playing for who will go into trials, the favorite, and. And for the grand final, we'd like to let you all know that it will be a best of 7 instead of the regular best of 5 we have been seeing, and that will already start with X69 Gaming being one map up in this best of 7, as they did go through the upper bracket.
Absolutely. Their progress through the upper bracket of the tournament awards them one free map win going into this series, so they do only need three more map wins to close this one out. However, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. We are going to also be seeing a slight difference in the order of maps. We'll still be starting off with Control, but then we'll be running through Hybrid, Escort, and then Assault before going back to Control and finally a Hybrid map at the end if it is needed.
Yeah, and that'll be the most interesting thing is the change up on the map pool. With the added escort as well, there's 3 chances for a draw, which may see Ilios play first or Oasis, but I doubt we'll see this. X69 have come through the upper bracket. Will be the favorites, but I think Paradigm coming up. They did play extra games today, I'm fairly sure. So they actually no, they did not. They had a forfeit to Jim's Esport at the start of the day, so they played the same amount of games as Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, absolutely. That extra free win there, giving the players a much needed chance to rest and recover. But despite that, it has still been an absolute slog these last 2 days, and all of these players are definitely sure to be at their absolute limits here. They've had very little downtime between games, about as much as we have. So they've only had an hour. That's not a lot of time to be able to do any sort of prep work for their next opponents in there. So it has been back-to-back games for these players, and all of them have been tested. And this is the chance to see if Paradigm Shift have what it takes to take down the final boss of Open Division, beat X69 Gaming, and secure the crown for the champions of Season 1 of 2019.
Yeah, and our first map will be Nepal today, so it will be interesting to see what both these teams runs. We've seen X69 play a whole lot of goats through through the playoffs, and really I'm expecting that from them a lot here. But Paradigm have shown they're a bit more flexible. They play onto that quad DPS, which we have seen quite a lot. Possibly this new patch really adding up with that. We haven't really been seeing a whole lot outside of those 2 comps. A bit of dive here and there, but it's nice to see a bit more variance from just the goats comps we have seen previous.
Absolutely, and the big thing with coming up against a team like Paradigm Shift is they are so flexible. They run a strong Goats team, but they also have that quad DPS in the wheelhouse. And sometimes when people have been matching quad DPS against them as well, they've even shown us that they can still play dive. There's been a lot of variety here over the weekend, and probably the biggest takeaway we've seen from the game so far is that with Goats going on for so long, people maybe have forgotten how to actually answer these Tracer players. Meanwhile, those Tracer players still very good at getting into the backlines and getting the quick kills on those vulnerable supports.
Yeah, and with Ash coming into these 4 DPS comps a lot, it's also having to deal with Bob as goats. And normally you're not going to be running a whole lot of stuns on your team, so you're just going to have to try and eat as much as you can with DM and shield. But once if those aren't ready, Bob can get a whole lot of value and also just stall the point, which is really what a lot of teams are trying to use that for in that 4 DPS comp.
Absolutely, the amount of zoning that Bob can provide has been absolutely brutal. We've seen in games yesterday Bob being used to zone vulnerable targets into a tight spot, and then the Tracer just blinking in, sticking a pulse bomb, and those two supports stuck behind a pillar basically get the choice of trying to separate and getting picked off by Bob anyways, or just going up in the boom. So it's certainly a composition that puts a lot of pressure onto players, and so far Paradigm Shift have proven very good at applying that pressure onto their opponents.
Yeah, and I think this game will be the true test for them, seeing whether they can try and force their way through contenders' trials. Because, as said before, the absolute titans of Open Div at the moment, X69, haven't dropped a single match. They've gone through these playoffs, through the upper bracket, as we said, went through regular season 10-0, and it's really just going to be... It's really their game to lose at the moment, but obviously Paradigm, they're going to be feeling red hot as they only lost one map, and that was really early on. They haven't lost a map recently. Not a map, sorry. Haven't lost a match recently. They have had one 5-map series earlier, but I think the other one was a 3-0. I'm just going to be checking the brackets right now. And yeah, against Sandfraggers, they 3-0'd them, and Bad to the Bone was a 3-2. So they've got to be feeling a bit hot after that win on Sandfraggers.
Absolutely, they've just had a very dominant performance over the strong team that Sandfraggers proved to be, and this is their chance to absolutely keep that momentum going. X69 Gaming, they've had a bit of time to relax, they've had a bit of time to chill out after their last game earlier today, so their players perhaps coming in a bit fresher, but at the same time they don't have the advantage of that momentum that has been built up by Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, and although they don't have that advantage from momentum, they do start one map up, so it will be a hard climb back for Paradigm, having to win 4 maps, where X69 only have to win 3. And that's really will be a huge difference there. Just if it's going 3-3, it's just going to be X69 taking it out. So Paradigm already having to fight the uphill climb coming up here.
Absolutely, but at the same time, we just haven't seen a lot of X69 Gaming on the hybrid game mode. Because they've been winning so many matches so cleanly, they probably have less practice on hybrid than anyone else. So definitely an opportunity here for the Paradigm Shift to perhaps get some early... if they're able to pick up the control map and then take it to hybrid and keep the momentum going there, then X69 are suddenly going to be looking in a very difficult position there.
Yeah, and I think we are going to be moving into the first map here. We're just sorting some things out. And yeah, here we are. So we're going to be handing you off to Cyberwaste and GL Phoenix, taking you into this first Nepal map.
Thank you very much, guys, for that insight. As we're getting into this first game of this grand final of Open Division, as I mentioned, I am GL Phoenix, and with me is Cyberwaste. And Cyber, how are you feeling coming into this one?
I'm feeling extremely proud of this entire division and how far it has come. It started 2 months ago, just shy of 2 months ago, that we started on this journey of Open Division, and we have come to a head. Paradigm Shift and X69 Gaming. X69, no, we didn't botch the overlay. They are one map up. They only have to win 3, theoretically, and the side of Paradigm Shift have to win 4. And if we end up tied at 1, it will basically be a it's basically a first to 4 in terms of numerics. So
absolutely.
Now
they ended up getting that advantage because they were able to make their way all the way through to the grand final from the winner's side because of the nature of the double elimination bracket. There are some esports, when it comes to double elimination, you have to win a second series, but with Overwatch, we don't want to take an extra...
It'll take forever.
You don't want to take extra hours. That would just be way too strenuous on everyone involved. So we just have to make do with what advantages we can give over. So the 1-0 is going to be in favor of X69, but that doesn't mean that they are definitely in the advantage just yet, because we have to see how they play on this first map of Nepal. It is going to be the village, and already we have a very big difference of styles between these two teams.
Yeah, look, keep it on. Hunter on Paradigm Shift already using the Ash. There is a quick jump from one of the wizards right on top of the other team. And Poe's got the better of Boom very early on, so that is the Zenyatta for Paradigm Shift, no longer a part of the fight. And Hunter doing the best that they can to basically keep the side of X69 out of arm's reach, but X69 have gotten the first dibs on the point, but now the rebuttal's coming in from Paradigm Shift, and it's coming in very quickly.
Yeah, able to finally get some of that damage to stick now that the point has been unlocked. They are able to come in at the multiple angles and really split apart this X69 lineup, and Pizza is absolutely tearing them apart. And only 19% in favor of X69. That is more than, they would be more than happy giving that up to be able to secure themselves this point for now.
They'd be very happy with that, just straight off of an opening engagement like that. They'll take that every day of the week. And now that the side of Paradigm Shift slowly ticks over and now take the lead proper. And looking at the side of X69, they're wanting to move down up top. There is the barrage. And a combo wombo turning awesome to Winter, and death was sure to follow. That is a brutal barrage, and just basically shutting the door with authority was Paradigm Shift on X69.
Absolutely, they only had to use a single ultimate for that play, and they completely shut out that entire push. And with how this composition has been coming out from the side of X69, they want to be a little bit slower with their approach, so they're bleeding a lot more time. Pizza is there on the front line. They have a lot of ultimates to work with, and here comes this steady approach. A lot of ultimates have been used. Bob is going to go through, as is this mech explosion. They do manage to take down Ike. That's a lot of the damage, and Hunter is doing so much work with this Ash, and that is yet another defense sturdily holding on here from the side of Paradigm Shift.
Hunter and Awesome have been putting on a clinic in two different disciplines, one being the hit scared and one being the projectile between the Pharah and the Ash, just basically locking out whatever X69 do have to hand, and they are well and truly poised to keep this going. But Roddy will call the comrades to arms on X69, and looks like it's a full-blown ring around the rosy. We could get a full cap, and yes, it will go through for X69, and basically this entire fight, there was basically two ships crossing each other in the night, and X69 have bought themselves a lifeline back into this, and we could see the same going the other way. Autumn will call the barrage, we'll take down a pair. The Solid Picnic will silence Autumn for now, before being resurrected back into the fight, and now Noosh is one of the last bastions on the point. Does throw out the Graviton Surge, and now Solid Picnic is there to assist, but not for much longer. Noosh is the last bastion. Let the Particle Cannon give Noosh their last rites, and now X69, they are running in and just trying to get a touch with these aggressive hero picks now.
Yeah, they have to make it there at all costs. They don't have anything left in the tank because of how slowly their team comp was making their way towards the point. They can't really come in at a very consistent pace, and we're seeing just how much damage is available, and Hunter and Bob is doing so much work. You can't really stand on the point when you have Bob just shutting everyone out of there, as here comes a mech explosion. But because of how slowly Thunder was there getting to the point, the first round is going to be secured by Paradigm Shift.
And off the back of Hunter and Awesome, you said it in the final stanza there, Bob. He is a terrifying beast, especially when you're on such a low health pool as Tracer, the lowest in the game, 150. Those guns that are in his wrist, they are going to eat you alive. And with that, Paradigm Shift are one map up, and we go into the Sanctum. Maybe we'll see a new perspective and a new composition coming out from both of these teams. We'll wait for the gates to drop to see everything finalized.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what Paradigm Shift has been bringing so far, it's been working out. So they are going to be moving away from that massive DPS lineup and more towards the GOATs. Instead going with the Winston instead of the Reinhardt, wanting to be a little bit more mobile and jumping onto a lot of those back lines as they are making their way towards or around the side. Not really caring about the point just yet. That is where X69 are making their stand, as we do have Pizza diving on towards that back line, but Ike is going to get the first kill of this engagement, taking down H-Boom, and that is going to be a good start to this fight. But they do get the return kill, but It's just trading back and forth at this stage. The point has been unlocked and it is going to be secured very early by the side of Paradigm Shift, and now it's time for X69 to try and make their way back towards it. But for so far, it's not really working out as they would have intended. They do actually get a little bit of progress on it, but they are going to be jumping all the way and essentially resetting.
Yeah, and there is the full-blown change. Tracer has been taken out of the equation by Ike, now on the Zarya. And we see the Zenyatta and now the Brigitte, which is such a shame. Riley did get a couple of crucial frags and displacements on the Wrecking Ball, but essentially that type of strat is a one-and-done deal, so X69 are just going back to a tried-and-true setup for now, and now Paradigm Shift and X69 are getting into engagement again, and Razorfish will take out Roddy and Ice down into the pit of death. Hopefully you see the mortal combatants down there too, and another one as well. Oh, goodbye. I would be assuming that the head honchos of other video games will be very pleased with your efforts, Mr. Razorfish.
Absolutely, and that is exactly what you want on defense. Just shut down those attacks before they can really get started. We saw how long it took for X69 to really get set up to try and make a play onto the point, and as soon as they pulled the trigger, got immediately negated. As we are seeing a lot of ultimates being pulled out, but a lot of the death is going in favor of Paradigm Shift, and we're starting to run out of time here for X69. They're not really getting things to stick, and there's still ultimates in the bank here for Paradigm Shift to really hold their ground.
They're definitely prepared to suck in and survive a long cold winter should it come. They have Sound Barrier, Primal Rage, and with the way Paradigm Shift have been positioned, they won't really need all that much else. And Razorfish gets the better of solid picnic. The reign of terror will continue, and that's what you get for feeling the base cannon neutral. Throw out the self-destruct, does not get much off of it, gets swatted down by Pizza in the Primal Rage. And now, a lot of X69 were in the containing room, and just as quick as it's all started, it all comes to a close. Paradigm Shift have won the opening map, and we are tied at one apiece, and that one map advantage, as quickly as it came, it went.
Absolutely. It was just Paradigm Shift from start to finish on that second map. You see, you saw Razorfish just consistently just giving their team the advantage from just booping people around and just the displacement. X69 are really good at playing that rather slow, methodical approach game, but when it just gets completely dismantled by these compositions that Paradigm Shift are throwing together, it just throws a complete wrench in their plans.
Yeah, and the thing that I really enjoyed with Razorfish and Eddie Lucio, who's extremely mobile, just watching them be an absolute nuisance, especially with any character with high mobility. If they can just stick and move, do a sweep sides all on their own, if they can stay alive or even get giant boops like it was demonstrated by Razorfish there, it was wild.
Yeah, and I believe we had a bit of a quick pulling of the trigger there from some of the players, thinking they were still going by the best of 5 rule set, but instead we will be going to the hybrid map, and it is going to be quickly changed over, and we are looking to be at Blizzard World.
And Phoenix is well aware of this. It's one of my favorite maps that have been put into the pool, not only because it is gorgeous to look at, but some of the plays that have come out, especially with the new heroes that have been added to the pool. If Ashe can use the dynamite to basically wedge in between a cluster that's hanging in the little alcove near the point, if the opposition doesn't move, it's going to be a rough time. Damage over time, and that threat of the lever action rifle up overhead as well.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of those quad DPS lineups coming out on both attack and defense, to be quite honest. I have to see whether or not the defense is going to be... It's weird to be in a situation where you're questioning whether or not a team is going to be brave enough to run goats because of this potential quad DPS lineup that can punish it.
Punish it hard, because even though, yeah, you've got a ton of HP, that HP pool doesn't really mean all that much if you can't really dish it all back out. And maybe we'll see a little bit more success. I like Ike's little pick here of the McCree, just keeping not only for the cannon because Slip Jip is on the Ash. I like me some Law. Just the hit scan advantage is essentially nullified because of Ike and Slip Jip just fulfilling a similar role between each other.
Yeah, and also just to give themselves a little bit of range, kind of expecting the style that is going to be coming at them, as we do have Pizza on the wrecking ball, making his way through to just disrupt a lot of the setup, and H-Boom is going to get the first kill, taking down Ike, and gets another onto Poe, just picking up where he left off in the lower bracket final, just picking off heads left, right, and center, as they are just completely rolling through this defense, as it barely even stood.
It was made out of wet cardboard. It just got absolutely rolled over, and then the Widowmaker was just like, boom, headshot, boom, headshot. That is the defense completely and utterly crushed. And we move on to phase 2, and Rani got swatted like a fly thanks to the bullet from the Widow's Kiss. And there is the Empress Sight to give the helping hand to the rest of Paradigm Shift as to where the rest of X69 are standing for this defense.
Oh, and this could be a little bit dangerous, being all bunched up like that. A good engagement there from Pizza, but does manage to get out before he takes too much damage. He does finally fall down to Ike, managing to chase him down, but throughout that, H-Boom gets another kill. And the Resurrection coming through to make sure that they have enough people in the fight. They sure do lose their Pharah, but they have more than enough tools to keep this fight going. The payload throughout all this is still going on, as Razorfish had the Genji diving on top of him, but it said, you want to brawl? Alright, let's throw hands. And Razorfish managed to pick up a couple for himself.
Wow, Razorfish really put on a show and a lot of versatility, and basically saying, yeah, I can support, but I can also do the damage should the need arise, and being basically an all well-rounded support that you sometimes need in the field. And Slim Jim has gotten rid of Solid Picnic, so that is the Lucio now no longer part of the fight. Razorfish has used the Valkyrie, that's keeping a lot of the team members alive, but while Razorfish is flying around and using the healing stream to the best of their ability, a couple of big frags have fallen for X69, and finally they have a chance to stabilize.
Yeah, it's going to be another one of those resets coming in for the side of Paradigm Shift, and now we do see a very aggressive defense. We have X69 coming through, the barrage comes out but got completely denied before we could get anything done. The mech explosion does come through, doesn't get anything but creates a decent amount of space. So a couple of ultimates used just to force back this offense, and a little bit of an adaptation coming through from the offensive side of Paradigm Shift, moving over to the Brigitte, trying to deal with Ike on that Tracer, but it turns out you just have to hit those shots and make sure that that very squishy target goes down before anything can happen. Here comes the big engagement for Paradigm Shift. The minefield and also Bob has come out, but the Nanoblade has been used, but not really getting anything out of it as of yet. Bob is just going to swat him out of the skies. He's like, you and your fancy blade, I do not care about you. I am a big robot boy, and you are out of here.
My name is Bob, and I do not care for your cutlery. It wasn't made by Tim Shaw, not at all. And that is now 4 minutes and 20, running down to 4 minutes and 25 for the payload to enter its final phase, and now Paradigm Shift well, tanking up in some of the most literal senses of the word, and really wanting to push this home. They're going back to the old tried and true 3 tanks, 3 supports, and well, hope you don't get run over by the treads, X69, because if you do, it is going to be a tough time moving forward.
Yeah, we do have a rather similar looking lineup on the other side. Now that we're into this third point, it's just how it goes. We do have Pizza being the first one taken down, and the rest of the team is going to follow suit as they are trying to retreat. But X69 are just not going to let them for now. A good hold for now, but there's still a little over 3.5 minutes for Paradigm Shift to get as much as they can done here.
And another change, back to the more aggressive setup that the Paradigm Shift team had used a little earlier on in the piece. We're seeing a full-blown do-si-do, I believe, straight towards the spawn for Paradigm Shift, and that is quickly basically pulled the plug off of And, well, Ike is trying to get charged up using the particle cannon, bringing one of the members low, and that is Razorfish gone with authority, and that is basically, yeah, that's the call. That was the call as soon as Razorfish went down. And the more frags that Paradigm Shifts give over, the more ult charge that X69 do have to hand, and they don't want that, so they are backing all the way away. And now the clock will dwindle under 3 minutes.
Yeah, it feels as though they want to be going up against that specific composition. The GOATS composition is what this quad DPS that they are bringing is specifically designed to take care of it. Now that they see it and can confirm that it's right there, here comes the rally up, trying to keep the team nice and healthy. As Hunter is going to be the first one to go down, they just run them down as this offense is not able to get set up in any way, shape or form. They want to try and play the long range game, but with how this X69 setup is coming through, they just turn a corner and run right into a wall of goats.
Nah, that was awful. I'm never doing that again. But it's very, very true. They just they just basically turn the corner. It's like the old still shot in the freeze frame. It's like, you came to the wrong neighborhood. That's exactly how it went down. And we're seeing another change from Paradigm Shift. They're going back to the goats. That is that was the Earth Shadow from Fudge Ray. Does not get all that much value, but that big rocket hammer is clearing right through the grouped up members of Paradigm Shift. And well, this feed is blue and then blanked out for the people that are wanting to go back and reset themselves. And X69 are well and truly dug in. It's defense with a capital D and an actual fence put in front of it. And well, Paradigm Shift, they have to figure out a way to either jump it, even though they might get scarred by the barbed wire on top. And
yeah, it's been a little bit of an issue because of all the swapping of composition. They don't have much ultimate charge to work with as the explosion comes through and takes care of the rest of the team. They were already diminished throughout that graviton surge, and with the explosion completely taking out the rest. The bell sounds, and that is going to be the wipe. A minute left on the timer here for Paradigm Shift. They have to be a little bit wary of how they make their approach this time. They are still working their way through the ultimates that X69 weren't able to accrue. We do have a rally up on both sides, so both teams are going to be coming in as beefy and as healthy as they can possibly be, but so far it has been in the favor of X69. We'll have to see if things are going to be able to change as that boot goes off and Stolen Picnic is able to get the kill onto Pizza, and yet again X69 able to start the fight off really well and then just roll all the way through. And now it's down to 20 seconds left on the clock. They have to be scrambling to get to this payload.
Scrambling and trying to figure out a way. How do we use the ultimates that we have to hand to break this defense? And X69 really know this. Look at how they're positioned until very recently. They'll basically run out of the doors and keeping an eye on everyone. Keeping an eye on Stolen Picnic as well. He does have the sound barrier to hand. There's the Earth Shadow of Fudre. There's the Graviton Surge from Hunter. Hunter finally gets the strong arm of Ike. That could be the first ticket in, but Paradigm Shift do have to do a lot more work. Shatter. And Fudre has actually gone down, and there was a big shatter in amongst that as well. And Paradigm Shift finally, in overtime, they end up getting this payload moving, but it took a lot of investment to get there. It was worth it.
Yeah, they are getting this payload moving, but because of how much further they have to go, there could be at least one big, strong defense left here for X69. There are going to be a rally up for both sides, so yet again, both teams coming in very healthy. Have to see how this one plays out. We do have ultimates on both sides, but a lot of them are defensive for Paradigm Shift. Here comes the explosion, and it does manage to pick up Hunter, so that is one member out of the way, as we do see the members starting to dwindle here for the side of Paradigm Shift. They're losing the mech. They did manage to take down Fundray on the front line, but they're starting to really lose their front line in response. They need to be able to stick to this point because it is in overtime. Any much longer off it, and that counter will drop. Switch over to the Doofus just to get back here in the nick of time, but it's going to be the defender's advantage throughout a lot of this. Razorfish gets punted off of that payload thanks to Fundray, and the fight is going to keep on continuing. Hunter gets slammed out of this fight. Here comes an Earthshadow, does manage to put Stolen Picnic onto the ground, but the kills are starting to go in favor of the blue team. X69 are starting to get a little bit of better position. They shove them all the way off the cart, and that is going to be round one completed.
That was a grind out for the final stanza there for the first half of Blizzard World. They did get 2 points on the side of Paradigm Shift, more power to them. But now it will be the true test. How strong is your defense? Because the attack for Paradigm Shift, it did have a lot of promise for a few of those engagements, especially through the streets phase of the opening. But when it came to the catacombs and the final point, it sort of fizzled out, and then as soon as the members of X69 had a chance to dig in, they dug in, stretched out the top, put up the wall, and said, no, you're not going to get in, mate. You can't get in for free.
Yeah, and now we have to see how the offense for X69 turns out. We haven't really seen as much of the quad DPS out of them. They do tend to favor the more beefy style with the goats. They do throw a few variations here and there, but on the other side, Paradigm Shift, they have been very comfortable going towards the quad DPS, and it has been dealing with exactly what X69 had to bring to the table.
And with a Plum too, we've seen many an instance, not only throughout Open Division, but throughout other broadcasts as well, of Overwatch as of late. And it's actually a really fun time now for seeing lineups like this, just stretching everybody out. And now it is time. X69, it's time for you to breach this defense. Fully kitted up, and look at the damage already being exchanged.
Yeah, already this quad DPS lineup is outputting a lot of that, and it's making it a little bit harder for this offense to really make their way towards the point. Already they have lost a member. They do manage to take one, but they've lost another. HPM is in a brilliant position to just snipe away at those very low HP members, as they do end up getting another for themselves. But this offense is really just getting shredded apart from this massive crossfire.
And it's like any other game where there are two members that can cover each other and do a good job of it. A couple of members of X69 are still hanging around and being stretched out. That stagger on the Fundre, as well as Noosh, that could basically not bring another 30 seconds or so until they are brought back in. And well, we're seeing a bit of a shift in the sands. We're looking at a old dive composition. We're going back into the archives.
Yeah, a bit of a throwback, recognizing that the goats really are just not working when thrown up against that quad DPS, and they have to find some way to get onto that back line, get onto those squishy members, eliminate them, and get as much possible done from there. But Fundre dead right at the start of this fight. Slip managed to take the running, and Ike going down as well, as this attack is just not really working out, as X69 look like they're a little bit flustered trying to figure out a way into this point.
And Noosh actually ejected extremely late. Wait and see as to whether or not they're going to stagger. Oh, they're going to try to stagger out Noosh really bad. Just playing with their food now. And I don't think X69 can even get to regroup. No! That was a good 15-20 seconds point. And now that's going to leave X69 standing in place. And perhaps even being peppered with damage from a long distance. And while Paradigm Shift are making this extremely difficult for X69 to breach, and look at their ultimates they have to hand.
Yeah, they have a few good ones to work with. The Dragon Strike, Missile Barrage, we've been seeing them being a little bit hit and miss, but sometimes Autumn just gets into that right position, and so far they're doing so much work just with that left click, and we see the mines come out to create or split apart a lot of the team of X69, but they do manage to make their way past it. They have lost a member or two as Ike gets picked up again. Autumn doing so much work with the help of Razorfish, and they're able to just completely control the skies, and there's absolutely nothing that this X69 lineup can do about it.
Not at all, and it's basically a strategy of distractions. Autumn will be raining down damage from the skies and hitting you with the rockets that feel like a left hand. You also have a couple of hit scans to deal with in Boom and Slim Jim. It's just making life extremely difficult for this attack to do. You have too many angles to check, too many heroes to worry about, and now we are running down to 45 seconds, and now even lower now, and it's basically the last stand for X69, and they've really got to make this count.
Yeah, they have to make something stick. They are not really getting many ultimates for themselves. The Dragon Strike does come through to split apart this offense as Autumn is still just firing away from afar. Slip managed to take down Fundray, and they don't really have the time to recoup and go for another attack, but that's what they're going to have to do. They have to try and get some kind of considerable presence on the point, but they are just not allowed to. We see the Dynamite coming through, does manage to get a hit, as we also had the Infrared being used by H-Poom to give themselves every bit of knowledge that they need to keep on denying this offense. Ike does manage to get to the point, but gets taken down immediately. Bob is going to be stuck on the point, just completely shutting everyone out, but Rani is going to be able to open up some space. With that Dragon Blade takes down two, but with Bob still on the point, it's going to be denying them for much longer. They do get the resurrection onto H-Poom, but it looks like they may have actually done it. They've been able to get onto that backline with some of their ultimates, slice them apart, and slice open a piece of terrain for themselves. But here comes the defense. They're trying to go for a recontestation as the Dragon Strike comes through, but it might be a little bit too late. They do manage to get one onto it, but it might not be enough, as it looks like Autumn does manage to get out of there, but Ike is going to be able to pick up a couple kills and secure themselves this first point, but it took so long to get there.
It took a lot of trial and error, just trying to figure out the lock. It's essentially a lock-picking game where you're just trying to get into the safe, and they finally cracked it. It took them a lot longer than they probably would have liked, but now this payload will be on the move. I want to actually highlight a little bit Ike's little flank to even play distraction in that initial push, just pulled a couple of people away, and that was just enough for X69 to get in, and now this payload is on the move. Maybe we could see the same thing happen the other way, where it's just a full, just basically uncontested until perhaps we even get to last or a magic distance.
Yeah, they did put the nano boost onto the Winston, diving forward to draw a lot of the attention, as we see Ike getting into the backline, taking care of a lot of the DPS members, ends up falling to Hunter though on the Hanzo, so they're going very far forward, forcing them all the way back into spawn throughout all of this. Poe is going to be on the point, pushing that cart, but they are just ruthless in their aggression at this point, now that they recognize that they can just get onto that back line and really shred apart that defense. Is really working out well for them, as they have gotten the point all the way through to that second point. They did get that capture, and now that this defense is starting to walk forward, it's a little bit too late for that to start happening.
Just slightly mistimed it. Only a little bit of an extra touch, and it could have been only 1 point now for the side of X69, and a much longer spawn for them, or a longer distance between the spawn and the cart. But now this actually gives Paradigm Shift a little bit of a disadvantage, and perhaps in the chaos Paradigm Shift can hang on, but Fundrate will be feeding Hunter's backhand, and well, it's going a full-blown back and forth. There is the minefield dropped out from Pizza, hanging on as much as he could, but then Ronnie will be the better Hammond in this instance, and now the payload will finally begin to move into the final section.
Yeah, and now that we are into this third point, we see the adaptation, we see the adjustments to the composition coming out from Paradigm Shift. This is where you want to be in much more close quarters, so they bring out all the shields, they bring out all of their beef. Here comes the minefield in a really good position. Autumn manages to take it down to Ike before that pesky tracing can get too much done, and they are just shredding apart that front line. They did manage to get very close to that point that they need to be getting to, but losing the fight and recognizing the switch in composition from that defense, they go ahead and make the changes themselves.
And it will be a good time to note that's forcing a lot of resets in the alt economy that could be to their detriment in this next fight. It could be all over. Fundra is being brought down extremely low, and then eventually deleted by Pizza, and then got replied to by Poe and the Zenyatta. So you just got beamed, my good man. And that is Autumn and Hunter being a tandem effort to repel this first attack. Now in the second phase for X69, and Paradigm Shift have bought another lifeline.
Yeah, they're in a pretty good position. It's only about 30 seconds left on the clock, so X69 need to be able to make their way with some haste towards the point. They're making their way through the left side, and they are in a very congested section, so they have to be very careful with how they play through this. There is just an Earth Shatter here for Pizza, and also now Transcendence for the defensive offers. So they are trying to adjust their angle, trying to find any way to get towards this cut. 10 seconds left on the clock. They need to be on. And here comes the Shatter. It shatters all of their dreams in this map as they just roll all the way through that offensive lineup as Paradigm Shift just completely wiped the floor with them.
They shifted into top gear. There is the self-destruct from Slippage to keep the rest of the defense at bay, but the contest is still in effect thanks to the Hammond, and he got slowly melted away and brought back to the pet shop, and now the lead belongs to Paradigm Shift. Finally, after a rough time in their match history, they finally have X69 on the back foot.
Yeah, absolutely, and very well played there from Paradigm Shift. And we'll be looking forward to seeing how this series develops, but to get a little bit more information on how this series has been going and a little bit of a breakdown, we'll throw it back to Peronis and Infinity.
Thanks so much, guys, and what an incredible pair of matches we've seen there, wouldn't you say, Infinity?
Yeah, it's really just been not what I would have expected. I would have expected X69 to come out a bit harder after that first match, but they wouldn't have had the warm-up. They would have skipped that last match as the lower bracket final did take place. So Paradigm Shift obviously coming in with a little bit more warm-up, but that second map was extremely close. There was just points where either team was dominating. It was really very close towards the end.
Absolutely, but I think the overall, what we've seen from the game so far is just incredible territory control from Paradigm Shift. They've been able to set up in these positions, be it on control, be it on their Blizzard World defense, and just absolutely deny any space whatsoever to X69. And that has just been absolutely devastating to try and walk into.
Yeah, and well, X69 really need to bring it back soon, because if they lose this one, then it's match point for Paradigm Shift, and I don't want to bring it to that point. But it will be an escort map next, and that'll be interesting, as if they pick Route 66, that's playing into Paradigm Shift's hands with that quad DPS comp. So they have to be considering Dorado heavily, X69.
They do have to consider Dorado, but at the same time, Dorado and Blizzard World are often in a lot of places very similar maps, and we've seen that Paradigm Shift are quite capable of playing whatever sort of team comp is able to be thrown at them. They've been very quick to make whatever swaps they need to, and that is one big advantage that they have here, is just how flexible they have been with their team comps.
And I think that's just the main difference between these two teams. X69 swapped off goats for a little bit there in Blizzard World, but not for too long, as Paradigm Shift just are able to swap their comps up so much on the fly. Sometimes it gets into their head a little bit, and they're doing it too much, as we saw in that third point attack. But they have so much versatility in here, so it'll really be difficult for X69 to pull this back.
Absolutely, but at the same time, we have seen X69 have their moments of glory. You've seen once they're able to dig in with their defense, they're absolutely able to put down a strong one, as we saw in that third point of Blizzard World during the Paradigm Shift attack. And basically, some big plays in that final fight. See, Pizza went down with 96% on his Earth Shatter during their offense, and at that time, there was no main tank to oppose him. He did actually manage to make it back into the fight with the Shatter to lay it down, but by then, unfortunately, they did have Fundray back alive and well to block out that Shatter. If he'd been able to get that one off during the fight, I think we would have seen Paradigm fully cap it there, as much as it ended up that they had pushed far enough anyways.
Yeah, there's not too much difference between these teams after seeing that last map. That when they're dominant, and we saw that on Paradigm Shift's attack, and X69 on that second point was able to absolutely put them, spawn camp them, and just not give them a chance to even have a proper team fight on that second point. And it's just going to be whoever has more of those moments, and Paradigm Shift's getting more of them in Blizzard World, and that's what they've got to do. They've got to play their game. And Paradigm Shift now 2-1 up against X69, the Titans against them, and they've got the advantage right now.
Absolutely, and it looks like we will actually be going over to Route 66 for the next map as well, so you do have to worry that this is actually playing into Paradigm Shift's advantage. That said, X69 may have something up their sleeves here. They're starting to adapt. We're starting to see a bit more from them in Blizzard World than we did see back in Nepal, so maybe they've come up with a plan, maybe they finally got Paradigm Shift's number, and we'll see if the momentum can't shift back.
Yeah, and we are just waiting on one of the players to return before we head into this match, so I just think that Paradigm Shift here, they've got a huge advantage. They've got everything up for them. It's actually X69 playing on the back foot here, having to fight against Paradigm Shift, which is not what you would have thought going into this game.
Absolutely, it's not something that they've had to do so far. In fact, given their perfect run in the preseason, their perfect run through the playoff bracket, they've never had to play from behind before. This is something new to these players, and it may not be something that they are mentally ready to do, because you see it a lot with those sort of champion teams. They're just not used to losing. But we are going to head into the map now, and so we are going to throw it back to Cyberwaste and GL Phoenix for the cast.
Thank you very much, guys, and I really have to agree with what they were mentioning. This could be a very dangerous choice going to Route 66 because of the very flexible style that that Paradigm Shift has been showing. And Cyber, do you think it could be a bit of a mistake?
It could. This is a huge gamble from the side of X69. This could either play very well into their hands, or it could backfire tremendously. And then we could see the side of Paradigm Shift be on match point, which at the break, based off of the history alone, we didn't really call. Sure, there was a couple of close calls for X69, but they came in through the upper bracket and had that map advantage. Now that's been squashed, and X69 are playing from behind. And well, Paradigm Shift have got a lot of fight in them that needs to be said. Just looking at how hard they had to fight to even get here.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting sent to that lower bracket reasonably early. It was in the second round to the San Fraggers, and as we've been saying, they made a rather Herculean effort to just grind all the way through that lower bracket and making it all the way here. And it's weird. They were mentioning it in the analyst little segment we had before Perennius and Infinity, where it wasn't really expected that we'd come into this and be at this point of this series and have Paradigm Shift as the favorites.
Yeah, well, sometimes having it being on paper is only a part of the story, and now the gates are down, we are underway, and Autumn is taken to the skies and wanting to really break through this X69 defense. And Peach has actually gotten hacked at the back line by the Pesky Sombra of Rani. But now, this seems to be a little bit of a stalemate between both sides right now, and nobody's really wanting to give an inch. And well, Solid Picnic just slows Slim Jim's soldier off of the battlefield. And while that brief advantage, while fruitful, was only brief with the reply from Hunter.
Yeah, a nice kill there in response to Fundray being a little bit too over-aggressive and getting knocked straight into the team. But there are going to be kills going in favor of X69 Gaming, so they are starting to really force their way forward. And a nice engagement there from Fundray, and managing to take down two with a swing and take down a lot of that. Pretty much all of their sustainability in that lineup. And now that we are starting to see a little bit of a switch up coming through for the side of Paradigm Shift, they're moving back towards the Ghost composition, realizing that X69 might have a bit of an advantage with the composition that they're running currently. Can they go back to dealing with the beefy lineup now that they are on a very squishy lineup themselves?
We'll have to wait and see. There are a couple of really pivotal ultimates that are to hand. We almost have the minefield on Fundray. Noosh has the self-destruct to really blow the opposition back should the need arise. And speaking of which, Noosh just let it fly right over Big Earls. Does not bear any fruit. Ike, however, has taken out the Brigitte in Autumn, and that is a huge get. That sustain could have been a huge benefit to the side of Paradigm Shift. And there is the EMP onto several members of Paradigm Shift, and while this got shifted into neutral, and then the parking brake got put on, and Paradigm Shift aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and this stagger could hurt a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, and I've been liking these engagements from Fundray whenever a Paradigm tried to make their way forward to really start pushing that cart along. The engagements onto the backline from Fundray are just setting up so many plays for this DPS crew that X69 are throwing at them, and here comes the minefield to really split apart this offense and already takes down Razorfish, not able to get anything done so far, and another mine manages to clean up their other support, and already this attack has just been completely gutted.
Fudre's been putting on a clinic with his movement and the usage of the grapple and the momentum, and how that applies to usage of the minefield. The higher you are, the further it spreads out, and it's making the life really, really difficult for Paradigm Shift, and it's only going to get worse from here on out. Yeah, Slim Jim does have the self-destruct very shortly. Boom has the Transcendence, but that's barely enough to get a decent attack. This entire fight is going to have to go for a long time in Paradigm Shift's favor. They're going to have to ask for a lot. There is the self-destruct thrown out from Noosh. Not bad fruit. Ronnie, however, does get the cleanup, and this fight is going to get underway as the time dwindles down.
Yeah, the EMP was used, and the immediate kill onto the Zenyatta gave them a nice advantage at the start of this fight. And as you mentioned, there isn't much time. They really need to get something to stick as they're trying to stay around that car. It is just Autumn there, as Ike is going to be getting up more kills and really tearing apart this lineup. The Transcendence does come through eventually, with H-Move coming in as the reinforcements. They are still on the car. We are in overtime. Let's to see if they're able to really keep this going. Slip does manage to take down Poe, as that is one of the two supports taken out, as a great minefield is set up right on the car, and another EMP as H-Boom is yet again just demolished by that Sombra ultimate. And they are going to be at a bit of a disadvantage, as Fundray is also just being such a nuisance. Oh, a great Pulse Bomb goes down, takes down Hunter, as they are just trading kills back and forth, but more members are there in for the side of this defense, but the reinforcements are starting to come through. It is just a Diva and a Tracer on the point, but they do start to have members coming through. They are still in overtime. They have to stick on this card. H-Boom does manage to take down Poe, who did switch over to the Moira, and there are switches left, right, and center. They have to stick onto the point. Pizza takes a lot of damage from that Pulse Bomb, but because the Wrecking Ball is rather durable, able to stick around in this. Here comes the Mech Explosion, trying to force them away. Does manage to take down Pizza. That is a big kill for how much of a nuisance they have been, but because everyone was shoved off the point straight into that death chamber, they do finally secure that first checkpoint.
And it all sort of fell apart off of one small mistake, which I took a note of. It was Ike trying to one-clip the Mecha Pilot on the way down after a self-destruct. Slimjit was in a pilot form, got extremely low, but was not taken out, was able to re-mech and continue the fight and the contest. That played a pivotal role in the opening stages to Paradigm Shift, keeping this game alive.
Yeah, and we saw there Autumn just getting punched right in the dome by Rani, who is still on that Doomfist, as we do have the engagement here right in this choke point as the minefield comes out. But it looks like a lot of what Paradigm Shift is wanting to do is completely ignoring that. So a bit of a non-consequential ultimate being dropped out, as we do see them start to make their way through that choke point, having to be very careful, as H-Bomb is in a rather precarious situation, does get the assistance as the Pulse Bomb comes out, takes down 2, and that should shut down this offense.
And that's the power of the Pulse Bomb. It's been there for a long time, and well, relatively unchanged. There was a little bit of damage taken off of it, but well, Ike was to say, yeah, what? Well, it doesn't mean much. And well, X69 are at a very good position to really dig in and get a suitable offense because of how they can perch and set up now with their current opposition. And they also have time on their side. We're down to under a minute now for the side of Paradigm Shift to really get moving. And with a couple of the new changes, they might not even have a chance to properly contest with a full set.
Yeah, they have to be very careful with how these next fights end up going. There are some ultimates to use for the side of X69. We see Pizza getting dropped rather low, but with the Valkyrie coming out, able to keep the team nice and healthy. A hack goes down, the explosion comes out, takes down 1, but the counter explosion does take down a support on the other side as well. So here comes the missile barrage, trying to get anything done, takes down Ronnie, and also ends up, another Deadeye comes out to clean up a support as well. So really nicely done here for the side of Paradigm Shift, utilizing ultimates very nicely to secure themselves some space to keep this payload rolling.
Yeah, and they basically have to stick to it now. We will be going into overtime before the next fight starts. And here we go. The overtime is now in effect, and now the side of X69 are starting to file out and try to get the touch. Giving up a little bit of free real estate, but it's not really worth all that much of the grand scheme. Fudge does throw out the minefield, it's largely negated. It's not really bad as much as you probably would have liked. And we have frags and ejections going back and forth. Fudge did eject the Slim Jim, and then the Mecha Pilot did go down to the minefield, but that's all well and good, but that's just a bullet point for the rest of X69 to really ponder, with Slim Jim and actually Noosh being the only contest, and then properly ejected and wiped off the table. And Paradigm Shift, they're keeping this rolling, and they're probably breathing a sigh of relief and really wanting to knuckle down for this final phase, which is only going to get more difficult compared to the last two.
Yeah, and one thing we've been seeing time and time again, it's a little bit stressful to watch them at times because they can seem to struggle, but once it gets to that moment, or as I say that, an AMP that lands on everyone pretty much, and a great engagement coming out from Fundre manages to land onto so many members, and they just completely roll through this lineup. But as I was saying, Paradigm Shift, they're the kind of team that they can seem to struggle, but when it comes down to essentially overtime, that is when they start to get those fights to really stick. And sure, if you can get that to consistently work, I guess it works for you, but it has got to be stressful.
Stressful for not only the players, but for the casters, the people watching, everybody. It's not fun to watch people play with people's emotions like that and play with the clock. And well, is playing with a little bit of a boom, and earth-shattering kaboom does not bear fruit. Boom, however, does get rid of Fudge, and that is a big player, now no longer a part of the fight. X69 eventually called the retreat button and giving up the space, and yet again another overtime push is in our very near future. We are under 10 seconds, and X69 only just now are able to recoil properly and get the contest. But now the payload's almost there. Overtime is up, and Solid Picnic has thrown out the sound barrier to keep everybody topped up. There was a shadow there from Fudge. It does get rid of Razorfish. That is one second off of the fight.
Yeah, and Nanoboost did go down onto Fundre, and he does bring out the Earth Shatter, sets several to the ground, and the members are moving away from the car. They need to get back so they can... Oh, and a great Earth Shatter response from Pizza, just completely lays them down, but there's no one to follow up. But really, a lot of the damage is coming from afar. We do have members starting to make their way through, but they stepped away from a little bit too far. The Graviton helping push them away from the car, and that is going to be stopped just short of that full completion.
Can you not hear the chants of the Distance Phoenix? We like Ike. We like Ike. It's essentially him that played a huge part, taking advantage of the fact that they were just short the side of Paradigm Shift to even contest properly, and just to make sure, throughout the Graviton Surge, made sure, yeah, you stay put, and yeah, we're going to take care of the payload now, and just short of the third checkpoint will be Paradigm Shift, but with all that said and done, it's a decent distance compared to how dire it looked for a couple of fights for the side of Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, absolutely. They were scrambling just to even get that first checkpoint. It looked like they weren't even going to have that, but they were able to do that. They were able to scramble to get a fight towards that second checkpoint. And you'd think if they'd have a little bit more time to work with, they probably could have gotten that third point, but that's not to be on this round. So they do have a rather reasonable defensible push to, or distance to defend. Now to see how it goes. It looks like they're going with their patented quad DPS setup. We'll have to see how this offense is going to come through.
Not quite patented. We don't see the Ash. We see the soldier from Slim Jim. We have seen.
Close enough.
We'll still count it. Jack, you're a good lad. Let's hope you put on a show for the masses. It's a potential match point in the cards for Paradigm Shift. Should things hold on, and I got absolutely destroyed and turned into dust. Keep an eye on Rani though, as a cloaked Sombra. Yeah, there are two members of his team now down, but if Rani could get a huge hack onto one particular member, it could bear a lot of fruit, but just bearing it extremely unsafe, might wear on the side of caution. Actually hacked Pizza and caught them in a bad way, and Pizza gets sent back to the pet shop, and that might be the cue to go for X69, and well, it's paid off.
Yeah, really nicely done there. Taking care of that front line allows them to just focus that wrecking ball down, and as you mentioned, from there they were able to just roll all the way through and open up a decent amount of space for themselves. And now we have to see how this defense is going to come back onto the point. The resurrection does get used onto Autumn, so they will have everyone up and available, but as we have mentioned in the past, that does mean that for this next fight it will take a while for that next resurrection to come through, but we'll have to see how they try and approach this. This cart is making its way around Big Earls, and engagement comes through onto the backside for Fundray, but they're taking so much damage. A good barrage comes through, takes down Fundray, and also the mech does get taken down by Poe, but the damage has already been done. But here comes Ike to really tear apart the backline of Paradigm Shift, and it looks like they are just falling to the floor, and it's just a one-man army at this point as Poop is trying to shut anyone down, but this payload is going to be good enough cover to allow them to secure that first checkpoint.
And, well, basically it was a sweet, sweet science for the champion Ike saying, "Cheers, love, I'm here to ruin your day." And that is exactly what he did for the defense of the side of Paradigm Shift. And now they are left in a little bit of a scrambly sort of position. They can set up, no doubt about it, but it is going to be a tough time, and Paradigm Shift are going to have to really flow like water. You said it was a more liquid composition for Paradigm Shift. They're really going to have to try to adapt with what the next phase will potentially hold, and that is a big EMP. We'll claim a pair, but will that be enough?
Yeah, it's going to be 1-for-1 so far, and they are just trading back and forth for the moment. A Dragon Strike goes through the cart as Fundray is actually going to be able to get onto the backline and really tear up some havoc alongside Ike, and the rest of Paradigm Shift are trying as much as they can to stall out this cart, but it's not going to be enough as they are all shut down. And well, we're seeing X69 really start to take control. There are some ultimates to work with for another defense here at the second, or before the second checkpoint, but with how this offense is rolling through, it's looking pretty good for X69 at this stage.
Extremely good, and that's actually scared the side of Paradigm Shift into the tried and true Ghost composition, the El Clasico, the basically the patented buy, if we were using other games terms. And now Pizza's really rushing it down with Slim Jim hacked, and it looked like it was taken off of the edge of the cliff, but that did not end up bearing fruit. Slim Jim will obliterate Thunder, and there's only back and forth, and you slowly give it to the side of the attack in this instance. You definitely would now with a couple of members of Paradigm Shift now hitting the deck.
Ooh, a kill onto the Diva as they were out of the mech. Manages to get another kill there for Ike, who's doing so much work in just splitting apart the attentions of this Paradigm Shift defense. And regardless of what they're trying to throw at them with this Paradigm defense, Ike is just able to get onto those key targets, split them apart, and shred them down before they can be too much of an issue. A good EMP again as Ronnie is having an absolute blinder this map with this Sombra, and is really making it as hard as possible for anyone on Paradigm to get set up, and especially when you're trying to have this Zenyatta who is going to just suffer so hard when there's a Sombra on the other side.
Yeah, it's a really rough time. If the Sombra is really proficient in just being an absolute nuisance, it is going to be rough. And Ronnie did have a good run as the Sombra, but not so much as the Brigitte thus far. After the change, Boom will riddle her down and force the recoil for the rest of X69. And well, that change could really hurt them, because Paradigm Shift do have a lot to bear, and this could get ugly if everything goes to plan for Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, we see it rather often. The third point does end up being the switches back to the durable lineups and the close quarters punch-ons, as we do have an explosion come out, takes down Ike, and the rest of the fight is just going so well for the side of Paradigm Shift. They managed to use ultimates rather cleanly, not investing too much. It was just the Graviton, just the explosion. They still have more than enough to work with for this next attack.
And they'll build those back up in really short order too, knowing how much damage you have to deal and how high charge you can potentially get as the Zarya. There was the rally from Autumn, keeping everybody nice and healthy and proud, because Torbjorn Zaba is the best, no question about it. And well, this is basically just a war of attrition now, and trying to bleed ultimates down. And Well, we're seeing it's come so close to tipping in the favor of Paradigm Shift. There is the sound barrier to keep everybody into the fight. And there is the graviton on both sides and not really bearing all that much fruit. And there is the huge Earth Shatter from Fundray. And just as it was looking so good, it tipped straight back to X69. And that is as clear a path as you can get for the side of X69. This payload is going to get moving.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really nice fight, but because of how far there is still to go, there is another opportunity for this defense to come through, and a lot of what we're seeing is in the difference. The difference is in the Earth Shatters. Fundray is doing so much good work, and he plays those mind games so incredibly well that he's able to get those big Earth Shatters where their opponent is not, as Rani steps forward a little bit too far, and it really gives up a lot of pressure from the rest of this offense, and we can see just how well Paradigm Shift is just punishing that overextension and just really taking the smallest of advantages and rolling with it.
And when it gets to points like this, where it's sometimes called the corridor of doom, you basically have to take small advantages and make them stretch as far as they can. And that is exactly what is happening for Paradigm Shift. And we are running down to sub 1 minute, and we could not. You can basically bounce it on your finger to call who will get what. There is the Graviton Surge from Hunter, and the Self-Destruct from Slim Jim does claim Stolen Picnic, so that will be no more Lucio in the fight. And that could be a big casualty in the near future. Fudger is even bigger, not only in terms of size, but in terms of value, and that's going to cause the entirety of X69 to escape from that hallway and recontesting the point. And Paradigm Shift, they can taste this match point. 30 seconds left, and looking at the ultimate back, they are well and truly put in the driver's seat as well as go back from both sides.
Oh, another Earth Shatter goes straight into the shield. They do manage to drop Rani onto the ground, but Slipknot does manage to eat up that Graviton, but they do end up losing 2 members in the ensuing scuffle. Graviton does get dropped out, but they're not really able to get too much out of it because they've lost a couple of members, but the fight is still going to continue. They are going to try and stall as much as possible. They are going to lose this fight, but they do have a potential opportunity to make their way back towards this point for one last contest. The payload is moving. This offense is going to go forward very aggressively, trying to force their way into the space of these defenders. They have to rush their way. They don't have the benefit of being a coordinated rush forward as the Graviton comes through. They manage to take down 2, but they're trying to stall them out just at this point. Here comes the explosion. Doesn't manage to take down anyone. They do. They're just losing members left, right, and center as Fundray is just getting so much value with that left leg. They do finally win that fight, and they even things back up as X69 finally get themselves a map in the series.
They really had to fight tooth and nail for it, though. It was just really unfortunate for the side of Paradigm Shift that a couple of things in the final stage just could not fall into place. And while that long delay between being able to contest the point and able to do it safely, it was just a bad to worse situation for the side of Paradigm Shift. And we are now tied at 2, and X69, they'll be breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, it was looking rather rough for them. I mean, I did say that it was their first map win of the series. They did start this series as 1-0 because they got that advantage coming in from the winner's side of the bracket. So that was technically their first map win of this series. And they will be very happy. And as you mentioned, breathe a bit of a sigh of relief that they were able to at least stall some of the momentum that Paradigm Shift were really starting to get rolling with.
And that is one of the scariest things that you can really deal with, is a team that's in a groove, feeling momentum, and one that you can't really figure out, because once you're in a driver's seat, as it were, you just basically put the foot on the gas, keep going, and do not stop. But now Paradigm Shift do have the power of choice, and we will be going to the next map, which will be an assault one. And we have the choice between Hanamura and Volskaya.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. We usually get to sometimes get to see it, sometimes we don't, depending on how long the series go. We didn't get to. Oh, actually, we did get to see Paradigm Shift on Hanamura in the previous series, and they looked incredibly strong playing with their 4 DPS compositions. But it looks like we are going to be going over to Volskaya, industries and a bit of a change of scenery. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of the Hanamura over the course of this weekend, but I think it was in 1 or maybe 2 Volsky's.
I know we personally casted one, perhaps another one as well, and I made really bad jokes about the weather, but it does make a little bit of a change in scenery and perhaps another set of potential snowballs that could be coming our way. We could be seeing either a full-blown war of attrition or just snowballs going, just racking up the score counter. We could see 5-5, 6-5. However, the cards will fall.
The thing is, like we say that reasonably often when it comes to the assault map, is that sometimes it just ends up going to 5-6 points per team. But to be honest, over the course of this weekend, we're struggling to get 2 at some points, and in the previous series, they were struggling to get even 1 at some point. So anything can really happen on these assault maps.
Very true. It could either be an offensive demonstration or a pair of defensive powerhouses, and well, just based on the history from not just the discipline as a whole with the map pool that we've got, it's been just basically whose defensive wall can hold the strongest. Like you said, we've barely even seen it crack the obligatory 2 points to force extra rounds. We'd only see 1, and then the extra on top of it, like the usual 33
The extra
to 3rd.
round we had took like 30 seconds because they ran onto the point and the defense just wasn't there. That's literally it. It's like the only time we've seen like the extra innings when it comes to the assault maps over this weekend from what we've cast so far has just been that. It's either been full held at 2, or it's just you get to, when it gets to the next round, it's just a 30-second round and then we're done. So it'll be interesting to see if we get a little bit further than that. But to be honest, this has been a very interesting back and forth between these 2 teams, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they play this one out. On defense, it is going to be X69. They're running with one of the stock standard goats at this point, whereas on the offense, it looks like they're going to be using the Sombra, maybe just as scouting, but considering how Rani was playing it in the previous match, wouldn't be surprised if they actually run this.
Neither, and well, Rani did get a huge hack in the opening stages. Nope, just decided to call it, and that is the call to change. That's exactly what the side will do, and yep, you see them all move over to their respective heroes, and we will be seeing a mirror on both sides. What is it in other games? Mirror match.
Absolutely, and here we go. A very aggressive start to this engagement as both the Zayas and both the Reinhardts are stepping up to the plate. Andre and Pizza are the ones to really look at for a lot of these, especially once we get to those Earth Shatter situations. So far, no one has gone down just yet. It's just health bars going up and down like we're looking at the voice levels. And we're just having to wait for that first big opportunity for a team to step forward. A good fire strike goes through the paradigm shift lineup, and they have to be very careful already. Rally up for both sides, but already Pizza is going to get taken down in a good shatter. Put several members to the ground. They take Slip out of the mech, and they are just going to keep on rolling through as Poe just cleans up so many of these X69 defenders, and they rather cleanly take this first objective.
Very clean. It looks like either the name's incorrect or the it seems X69's in the red and Paradigm Shift is in the blue. And well, in any case, the red side is basically taking this point. They're really keen to keep things going, and they're well equipped to do so as well. Look at what they've got: the graviton, the sound barrier, the transcendent, the self-destruct to really make them spread out. And well, hopefully the blue team could really dig in and hold on.
Yeah, I am just checking they did switch the teams around as here comes the mech explosion, and it does manage to take down Fundre. X69 is going to be a little bit behind in this fight, and they're going to be held out for just a little bit as the fight just continues to go over to the defensive team. And yeah, thank you for correcting me there, Cyber, as I would have just continued with the colors that they were in the previous game.
No problem. I'm happy to help. And well, that will put a stop to the ruthless advance from X69, and Yeah, they do have a couple of good ults to hand. The bigger bang with the self-destruct and the graviton. But now, hopefully, that will all fall into favor. Keep an eye on Autumn. Autumn got taken out extremely early and did have to rally. That'll be the cue to really put the foot in the gas and do not let up. That is the Earth Shatter coming out from Fudray and laid out the rest of the defense aside from Boom. Boom does not know what to do aside from be peaceful and walk around with no actual feet on the ground. And then will not get the touch on the defensive paradigm shift. All it took was one push and not even the combination that they had at the start.
Yeah, absolutely, that was incredibly quickly. A really nice graviton to lock out the remaining members trying to get back to that point. And we've been talking about it. Sometimes it can be stalled out for so many minutes and other times it is just a grind. But that time, X69 really stamping their authority on this map with a 5-minute time bank still in hand. And now we'll have to see whether or not Paradigm Shift are going to be able to even match that time, because that's going to be a bit of a daunting task for them.
A really daunting task, and even with the amount of pace, it should really not be overstated. 5 minutes in the back pocket for the X69 members, and well, we haven't seen things like that in quite a while. It's basically been basically defensive structures which are put up either on first or second point, and that got quickly obliterated away.
Yeah, and a lot of it started because Autumn got taken down at the start of the fight. You mentioned it as it happened. Autumn died with the rally up still available. Should that have gone out, maybe they would have had the extra armor on the extra team. Maybe they would have lasted a little bit longer, and they would have been able to, at the very least, stall out for a little bit longer. So a bit of a mistake there from the support player, well, the sometimes support player there of Autumn on that Brigitte, and it may come back to bite them in the future.
Let's hope it doesn't for their sake. And well, we now will see the side switch, and hopefully Paradigm Shift can match that time. They'd be really having to dig deep to do just that.
Yeah, it would be a bit of an effort to match a 5-minute time bank. I mean, you'd be happy with like 3 or 4, to be quite honest, but looking at your opponents and see that they've got 5 minutes, as I mentioned, it can be a little bit daunting. It's like, well, we kind of want to get something similar to that, but then that can force you to almost rush into some of those points and not be as clean. So they just need to play their game, know that they are going to get there if they execute correctly on what they want to be doing.
And yeah, and we will be back to mirrors with the Gozcom on both sides and everyone being on point. And now we're definitely going to see the entire server be putting their best foot forward. And now the gates are down, and now Paradigm Shift. What do you have next? Pizza already being focused on and got volleyed right off the gate, despite the supports doing a valiant job in healing up the rest of the squad. Just all this damage being laid on by X69. They need to retaliate on the side of Paradigm Shift. They need to do it extremely soon.
Yeah, and Thunder getting a lot of value out of those 5 strikes, does finally get one eaten up by the Diva, as already Rani is going to be the first one to go down. A good start to this fight coming through for the side of Paradigm Shift, and now they can get really aggressive on this point. Now they had the advantage. They can be incredibly aggressive, and they are just rolling their way through. They do end up losing the mech as... Whoop.
That was odd.
It seems we've had an unexpected error in the server, so
Sombra, what are you doing? Please stop.
A very unfortunate situation.
Looks like oh, we have to
just a full reset, it seems. That is really unfortunate.
That's extremely unfortunate, and it looks like we are having a server change because of it. And well, with that, we have a little bit of time to sort of mull over the current state of the game as a whole. So, Phoenix, what do you propose?
I don't know because it was already a single round done and it was looking pretty good for the offensive side of Paradigm Shift, but it's a really awkward situation. Ideally, you just like redo the map because there's no way you can say, oh, you can give it to either side. It's just a bit of a really unfortunate situation for everyone involved. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of an interesting situation. We'll probably have to go to a quick break while we get everything sorted out, but don't go too far away. We'll be right back with continuing this grand final of the Australian Overwatch Open Division. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Australian Overwatch Open Division Finals. We are here in the grand final between Paradigm Shift and X69 Gaming. Unfortunately, before the break, we did have a bit of a server issue in the game, and unfortunately the call from the admins is to just completely replay that map. So even though it was a very good start from X69 Gaming, racking up a 5-minute time pull in their first round, we are going to completely replay that map and have to see how it plays out again. And Cyber, who's with me, is unfortunate, but that's just some of the nature of online gaming.
Yes, that is something that I'm all too familiar with, and it never gets any easier. But it's one of the things that you just have to deal with, and then the fact that there is a measure in place to get this figured out rather painlessly, it's a good thing, and something that's not seen as often as it probably should in a lot of games. But the thing is, with the way that both of these teams played, will we see a rerun of the previous half that the was it X69 did with the first attack? Will we see a time bank that was matched? Because I remember it was 5 minutes flat. It was something that we hadn't even seen all weekend.
Yeah, it was a very impressive time that was put up by X69 Gaming, and that was even using a little bit of time at the very start just to kind of scout out the kind of composition, and then we just essentially had mirror of the GOAT composition on both sides, and at that point X69 just essentially ran through it. But now that both teams have a little bit of extra information coming into this map on what both teams want to be playing, I would be too surprised if we just see them run it right back, try and play the same compositions, and now that they have a little bit more knowledge, play it a little bit better. Never know if they want to try and switch things up and really make the most of all the information that they have because of that unfortunate reset.
Yeah, or maybe even just throw the entire playbook out and say, "Yeah, we'll just do something completely different." And well, Pizza, I just got a front row seat of Pizza just dropping off the edge as Hammond before the actual reset came. Now we're in the assembly phase. It will be X69 in the red who will be attacking, and just as before, and Paradigm Shift on the defense just as before.
Picking up a fight. Yeah, and we'll just have to see if they are going to be just running that standard beefy lineup, as we've been seeing an awful lot. Well, to be honest, not as much over the course of this series as we've been all that used to. We've been seeing it more when you're very much certain to be in those close quarters, whereas in a lot of different circumstances we've seen Paradigm Shift really like to bring out that quad DPS lineup, but this doesn't seem like they want to be utilizing that for this specific map because of the nature of the approach.
Hopefully that will be what will bear fruit, and it looks like we have a potential of another set of mirrors. And Fundre, I know it's only for goofs and you will change, but I do want to see a Torbjorn. Please, please, please.
And
no.
Unless we get on to, say, something like Numbani, I'm not really expecting too much of the Torbjorn. He does switch back over, and yeah, here we do have the gates dropping, and we have mirrors on both sides, as we do see how this approach comes through from X65. Now that they're both very much aware of what's coming through. Oh, Poom getting taken down immediately, and this is going to allow X69 to just roll their way onto the point. Poe is doing so much work with this Zenyatta. He is an absolute monster and a marksman that is worth his weight in gold, as they completely roll through this Paradigm Shift defense and get a very quick time on this first point.
I believe that will even quash what the side of X69 initially got when we first ran the map. And good lord, Poom! Oh, it was the Zenyatta just absolutely demolished everyone, and that is worth their weight. For someone so peaceful, you never thought of someone being so hell-bent on destruction. And X69, they're already wanting to make a case for the second point.
Yeah, they are coming through. They're trying to utilize every advantage that they can. They're doing a lot of damage, forcing away the defense, as here comes the ultimates. They take down Razorfish at the very start of this. They are going to be able to throw out the Shatter and take down Pizza before he can get any kind of response. And already they've wiped everyone off the point. And now we have to see if they can get and it looks like they're going to be able to get an even better time if they're able to keep this up. They're trying to keep people shoved well away from the point. Poom does manage to get in with the Transcendence to allow the rest of the team a bit of a safer avenue to get here for the defense. Here comes the Graviton and locks them all out and away from the point, and they're just cleaning them up completely. The explosion comes through, gets rid of Pizza yet again. They do have a single member on the point, but they have all been wiped out. And Cyber, we were very excited about that 5-minute time bank. They've got over 6 minutes now.
Sometimes that's what a pre-play will actually do in those sort of very unique situations. They do not come around very often. And that is how you take full advantage of it. Compare 5 minutes, which is already time back enough. And you have 6:16 to hand compared to whatever the overtime would have been. It would have been basically no time bank and only playing with a third, playing to tie if you were on the other side of things. And now, paradigm shift, it was looking rough before. Can you repeat those same heroics?
Yeah, it's one of these situations. I was talking about it last time. It's like, you look at a 5-minute time bank on the other side, and it's like, well, we kind of need to be a little bit punctual with our progression towards the point and being able to at least somewhat keep up with what that time bank is going to be. But now that you're looking at a 6:16, you're just like, okay, I guess it's going to be a bit of an issue trying to get there, as we are looking at, we're probably going to be seeing a lot of the same compositions on both sides, as yeah, that seems to be the nature of this map today, is this goats v goats. They're not looking to be a little bit fancy, especially when it's a little bit harder to really open up this space here on this first point. So paradigm shift, they have a lot of work to do here.
A lot of work to do, and a lot on the line as well, because, well, you can take a feather in your cap in your future saying we won open division, and perhaps that could be the next step. You get through trials and then boom, you're in contenders. We'll wait and see, but you have to get through this test first. And now paradigm shift moving straight back in towards the point, and Slip Jim just knocked a couple of the members down towards the alcove on the point proper. But Fundray and the giant rocket hammer have a lot of words to say, and a lot of them involve pain for the attack of paradigm shift.
Yeah, really nicely done there. Just taking care and just focusing down that first member, and at that point, once the retreat starts to come through, chase them down. As we saw, there was Autumn kind of split off from the rest of the team. We see that a little bit too often. He's a little bit over aggressive at certain situations and gets caught out of position and eliminated. So here comes the second push coming out on the side of paradigm shift. They're trying to find a good avenue, but Long Picnic up high is going to be able to give a decent amount of information for the team, as they are going to be looping all the way around to the back, trying to get a little bit of a higher point of angle. As they make their way towards the point, force the response out of the defense, as here comes this offense, as they're trying to get every little bit of advantages that they can. Here comes the rally up from both sides. They need to get the most out of it to keep themselves nice and healthy, as an Earthshatter came out, but it's nothing compared to the Graviton Surge that is completely locking down this offense, as they just completely clear them up.
Wiped out and wiped off of the face of the earth, and the bell will sound in a nick of time for the side of X69, and it was looking a little bit shaky when they were on defense earlier, but right now, they are basically a giant tree. They cannot be moved, at least with what the side of the paradigm shift has really brought to bear thus far, but they do have a few ults coming close, but a couple on deck, which could be their best chance in, and very, very shortly, we will see a proper engagement on both sides moving towards the point.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the previous fight that the shadow was used, but I only just heard it, but didn't actually go out. But they do use one now. Fundray manages to use it, but doesn't really get anything out of it, as ultimates are being dropped left, right, and center, as Ike is going to be the first one of this fight to drop, and that is going to allow Paradigm Shift to move forward a little bit further, but that shield is getting very low as they overlap their support ultimates to get right onto the point, as Fundray and Rani have been taken down, and the rest of this defense is starting to crumble, as Pizza does get a lot of damage down, and that is going to be his shadow up and ready for this next engagement.
Finally, they ended up breaking through. It took a bit longer than Paradigm Shift probably would have liked compared to X69, but when you get to this point of proceedings, you'd just be happy to finally be able to scratch one more. We have 4 minutes and 50, give or take, for Paradigm Shift to take second.
Yeah, it's no 6 minutes, but it is going to be what they're going to look at trying to get onto this point, as they do have the armor up for both sides, as there are some health bars getting dropped a fair bit, but they are going to be very happy to just keep on playing it cautiously, as a good Earthshatter puts 5 members on the floor, and that is just a massive play coming out from Pizza. But they do manage to keep the majority of the team alive thanks to the Transcendence, and a little bit of a slower follow-up there from the rest of the team, as an Earthshatter in response does clean up the rest of this Paradigm Shift attack.
And it was so unfortunate. A big Earthshatter from Pizza took out a large majority of the
5
X69.
members went down. But
Yeah,
the
5
follow-up
went
just
down,
wasn't
but
really there.
There was nothing there to follow it up. Only 1 went down after that Earthshatter, and by the time the attack of Paradigm Shift even came close to sniffing the point, the reinforcements were there, so that big shatter, that big play was effectively moot.
And now they are starting to get a little bit lower on their time bank, as ultimates are getting dropped left, right, and center. The Transcendence doing a decent amount of work, as there are yet again going to be rally ups for both of the Brigaders, as Paradigm Shift trying to step their way forward, but good ultimates being used and good damage being put across as the Beck Explosion comes through, takes down Thunderer. That is the frontliner down. As they are starting to make their way towards this point, they need to get some progress onto this objective as they get the first tick, pick up the rest of the remaining members, and they are able to get the second tick. And with this defense not really there for now, they do manage to get there in the nick of time. Storm Picnic gets there with just a fraction of a second remaining, but steps off for just a fraction, and this second point has been captured, but Paradigm Shift still a fair bit behind when it comes to the time bank.
And because of the way that the time bank works, whoever has the lower count after regulation will be the team that goes first. So, you did it once, do it again, and faster. That will be the hopeful MO for Paradigm Shift, who have 3 minutes and 6 in the back pocket, and well, an extra 3 minutes and some change for X69 with a 6:16. Oh wow!
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be a bit of a considerable task for that Paradigm Shift is going up against. But to be honest, with how a lot of these first points have been going, that 3 minutes seems like more than enough time for them to be able to take that first point. It's beyond that I'm a little bit worried about for them, as they will not have nearly enough time with how things have been going so far. They won't nearly have enough time to really make a considerable effort at point B. But looking at the other side for X69, they can take it as casually as they want. They know that how they've been playing has been more than enough for them to get these victories.
They basically know that they have the power. All they have to do is defend for a good spell, which we know that they can do because they bled a lot of time off the clock before even a third was accrued for Paradigm Shift on the initial attack, which we were just bearing witness to. And here we go again on both sides. It's another flat-out brawl on the point proper. And X69 is starting to wrap around towards Paradigm Shift, and just getting them to pop and send themselves back to the spawn. But we are looking pretty much at a stalemate, Phoenix.
Yeah, right now it's just trading back and forth. We did have a rather hasty push towards the point, as Pizza does have to charge his way out, but that leaves a lot of the team very much exposed. They do try and reset, and they do manage to do so, but a bit of a precarious situation thanks to the boot coming out from Stolen Picnic, as here comes the rally up from the side of Autumn. As there isn't one yet for Rani, as an Earthshatter comes out and puts 4 to the ground. There is a Transcendence to keep the team mostly alive, but Autumn has already been dropped. And really nice start to fight Transcendence in a response, but Graviton Surge gets completely eaten up. Really nicely done there from Noosh, who is able to keep the team alive. Oh, blocked out the Earthshatter from Pizza. So really good fight here coming out on defense for X69.
It was better self-destruction stereo. Which diva could come out on top? And as soon as Slim Jim ate that Graviton, it was looking so good for the side of Paradigm Shift to at least buy a way in. But now Slim Jim has been bearing witness to the other side of the coin, really, really strong pain on the side of X69 with that stagger. It is rough, and just now the attack is able to regroup.
Yeah, and with how long these fights have been going, that entire fight bled off almost 2 minutes. So coming into this next attack, if it goes on for as long as it did before, this is pretty much their final shot at getting a point here. So they do try and make this very same cautious, measured approach as Stolen Picnic is trying to get in and cause some disruption. As Peter is going to get taken down, they do mention take down Ronnie in response, but Poom is a little bit slower on that Transcendence to keep the team alive. And Earthshatter comes out, but again, just trading 1-for-1. And this is going to force this attack all the way back. A bit of a reset. They do have enough time to regroup and get ready for just one last push.
And, well, if you're on Paradigm Shift, you'd be hoping, yeah, we can get an ultimate back in the next fight. But the side of X69, they already have one to hand, but they have all moved away from the point on the side of X69 and gave them a third for free, and now a potential second, which is on the card. There it goes. There is the engagement proper from X69 with the sound barrier coming out, and then the Graviton was sure to follow. And yeah, they gave them 2 ticks, but, well, now they have a well and true win condition on the side of X69, and they got stretched Slim Jim out as well. And that will basically be where it ends for the attack of Paradigm Shift. And now X69 match point is all you need. All you have to do is stay on that point for a little bit longer than Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting looking play. As you mentioned, they just kind of vacated the point, allowed Paradigm Shift to kind of drop their guard almost, get a little bit comfortable on that point, and then coming in essentially from the top rope, just slamming right down onto the point, saying that's all you were going to get. And as we've been saying, the amount of time that this X69 lineup has, they have all the time in the world to make this cautious, measured approach to this point. If it doesn't work the first time, they have another few shots to try and make it work. But on this defense now here for Paradigm Shift, it looks like they're going to be going back to that quad DPS setup, understanding that if they do just try and go face to face with the same composition as we've been seeing throughout this map, the entirety of its entirety so far, it's probably not going to work out for them. So they need to go back to what has really been working for them, and that is that quad DPS setup.
Well, stick to your signatures, stick to what you know, and, well, knowing how the mirror match has been going thus far, you can tip it very heavily in the side of X69. So Paradigm Shift, knowing that they have it all to play for, and they actually have a condition to win out this map, they stick to their guns. And now the gates are down, and around about 3/4, give or take, is what the side of X69 have to accrue to get the map win. But that is not a good start for the defense. Slim Jim goes down extremely early.
Yeah, a good kill. The resurrection has to be used incredibly early as Stolen Picnic is going to get taken down, so a nice return fire from this defense. But with Thunder on the point, does get shoved off by Pizza, but it is a bit of a tenuous situation at this stage because they need to have someone on defense standing on the point, and a lot of the time it is just going to be that Hammond, but he is only a single hamster in a ball, and they don't have enough members to keep up this defense. And with everyone essentially out of the way, that is looking to be it for this map.
And match point acquired by X69, and they made it look breezy, easy, mac and cheesy. I took like 3 different variations of that line, put them all together, and I found out it didn't work. But anyway, match point for X69. Despite a very strong effort for Paradigm Shift, their best thus far, at least against this team, they're on their last legs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a grueling back and forth. It looked like, when we started off this series, it looked like Paradigm Shift were going to just completely roll their way through, but X69 turned it to another level, have brought it all the way back through, and is, as you mentioned, they are at match point. And I guess to get a few more words at how this series has been playing out, let's throw it back to Peronius and Infinity.
Thanks, guys, and wow, what a turnaround we've seen. X69 showing us first on Route 66 that they are no strangers to the DPS comp, and stepping on the gas with Rani and Ike really telling us just what happens when you let your DPS players actually play DPS heroes.
Yeah, they're the reason. That's the reason they're on the team, and it just really shows why they are currently unbeaten in Open Division this season, and they're really just asserting their dominance there on Volsky. They started a bit slow, but now they're really getting into it. They are 3-2, and this is match point for X69.
Yeah, absolutely. After such a strong opening, Paradigm Shift really starting to struggle, and the day is definitely wearing on. I think that map reset, for all said and done, really didn't do Paradigm Shift any favors, because their initial attack there when the crash happened was actually looking pretty good for them, and they potentially were going to be able to do a big snowball onto that second point as well. However, instead, the map is reset, X69 get an even more dominant time, and their attack does not go quite as well as it was in that first run.
Yeah, it seemed like X69 used that map reset to actually formulate their defense a bit more than Paradigm Shift were able to. They might have planned for it, but X69 just executed better on their attack, and that's why they won that map so dominantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we have seen, especially back on Route 66, Paradigm Shift were doing a good job of punishing even the slightest missteps, but at the same time, X69 are really cleaning up. They're not giving those openings for Paradigm Shift to exploit. And as a result, we are really down to the wire here. These players are no doubt exhausted. The frustration of having to restart a map is no doubt taking its toll on them as well. And we will be heading over to Control next. So it's going to be going right down to the wire here for these teams.
Yeah, it's going to be Busan next. We've seen a lot of teams pick Busan first rather than pick Nepal, so it'll be interesting to see what these teams run. There'll probably be a lot of goats in 4 DPS, and so it will be very interesting to see what plays out here. X69, after seeing that last map, you'd think they can come out on Nepal, on Busan, but because Paradigm Shift won Nepal, they were thinking that they can win these control maps.
Absolutely, and we have seen just how dangerous Paradigm Shift can be with that quad DPS on Busan as well. We've seen that time and again throughout these playoffs, so there's definitely not going to be an easy road for X69 in this upcoming map.
Yeah, and we're just waiting for the map to change now in game, but I think it's Paradigm Shift are obviously hoping to be close, and I think it will be. Obviously, 2CP really favors a snowball if you can get through that first point quick, so it's not a true show of Paradigm Shift skill being snowballed that hard, but I think Control has a chance to be close or very one-sided, because X69 seemed to be in the driver's seat after that last map.
Absolutely, they finally got the momentum on their side, and they are not willing to give it up. So, Paradigm Shift, they're going to need to be the masters of their own fate and take that momentum back by force. We've seen them do it before. We know they're capable of it. But the question is whether or not they've got anything left to pull it out.
And that really is going to be what's up. They played 3 games today already, I believe, or 2 games already. So they're going to be a bit tired going into this, what would be almost 9th or 10th map.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these players, no doubt exhausted. They may or may not have had time to even grab a meal, so they could actually be sitting there, desperately in need of a break. But the games keep going in this close series. We are now finally going to be heading in, except I think they haven't updated the map, so that is a debate on me. And we'll just be swapping over to Busan shortly, and then I'm sure we'll be getting into the lobby.
Now, we're replaying Volsky for a 3rd time. No, we are heading over to Busan now, and it'll be very interesting to see what point plays first and whether it'll play into the 4 DPS comp or not. It will be Sanctuary up first.
Absolutely, and so on that note, we will hand it back over to Cyberwaste and GL Phoenix to take us through this next map.
Thank you very much, guys. And as you guys mentioned, it is going to be the Sanctuary right away. And Cyber, this could very well be our last map here for this Open Division playoffs.
And X69 still have that map advantage and now have match points in their view and in their possession. And now we're on to a interesting point to start off with. We will be on the Sanctuary, as you did mention, and we've seen a lot of the quad DPS really shine especially with the Pharah really being able to use the tight corridors to lay out damage on Sanctuary, and also if one of the sides hugs the coastline a little bit too much, we might see a couple of members go for a swim.
Yeah, it does leave open a lot of opportunities for a variety of different compositions, but each and every time you look at a composition, you have to wonder how are they going to be able to stand on this rather small objective that is here in the middle of this sanctuary, as we are getting ready to get underway here in this potentially last map here in this grand final for the Australian Open Division. X69 Gaming has really turned it up a notch, and they are looking to come in here with some authority.
And looking at the compositions, the big difference will be the Widowmaker of Boom being on Paradigm Shift. And instead of that, we have the Tracer from Ike. And already getting engaged by Slim Jim is out and off the table. And well, with a burst of energy versus speed, X69 just run right through this potential attack from Paradigm Shift. And well, what attack! They basically got handed to them.
Absolutely, they essentially got hamstrung before they could get anything set up with Rani on the Sombra, just managing to get a good angle on that back line, able to tear him apart before anything could get started. And now they have to hold on to this defense. They have a decent amount of percentage for quite a few of their heroes, as we do have Autumn doing a decent amount of work in the skies with that with the Pharah, with the help of Razorfish, as we do have an engagement. Pizza doing a decent amount of work, but does get hit up with the Bionade, as we do have frontliners on both sides getting cleaned up right early of this fight.
And they're coming oh so close to a tip on the side of Paradigm Shift, just trying to vacate the forces, but because of the drum in the middle, there's so much verticality, which is tough for some of the members of Paradigm Shift to really deal with because of how tight the point proper is. So for the time being, you would give it to the side of X69. You definitely will now with Autumn, the big heavy hitter which you were alluding to, brought down and having to be resurrected very briefly. And then Razorfish actually went down, so this is going from bad to worse for Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, they just can't really get anything set up at the moment. We're used to having X69 be playing the more solid, controlled lineups and playing with their grinding style, but now they're going for a much more free-flowing and very aggressive style, with a lot of DPS being thrown in the face of Paradigm Shift. They're just not able to really deal with it at this moment. As we see Ike do a lot of work with this Tracer, and the amount of ultimates on both sides, it can get very explosive very quickly, as Autumn is making the way towards the point, as Pizza is actually going to be able to stand on it to see how this defense is going to come through, as we do have Rani on the point, making sure that the capture isn't gone through yet, as they do put the pulse bomb on him and completely eliminates him from this fight, as they do need to be able to get on the point, because it's up to 99%, a good EMP shuts out several members, but they are going to be able to tick it into overtime. Ultimate's been dropped left, right, and center. The Transcendence to keep the team alive. The Resurrection did get used as well, but they are losing members. The side of Paradigm Shift, they need to keep someone on this point. The ticket does start to go down. Hunter and Pete are trying everything they can to keep this round alive, but so far it's not really working out for them too far. They're able to pick off a member here and there, but Hunter managing to take down Ike being able to take down his counterpart is really going to help out, as they were not able to stick on the point. Slipgip tried to get onto it, but that first point in essentially match point is completely locked up by X69.
And X69 are on match point, tournament point, and the point for Open Division, and the potential final scrap for X69's run in Open Division, and the same for Paradigm Shift, could be on the mecha base of Busan. And a big thing of note, Rani, being on the Sombra in the previous section of Sanctuary, only got one member, as opposed to the Sombra on the side of Paradigm Shift, who got 3 or 4. And well, sadly, it didn't bear as much fruit as they probably would have wanted it. Now, the tournament lives are on the line for Paradigm Shift.
Yeah, and it is going to be a mirror compositions as we start on the high ground, trying to jostle for position, as a good boot does put Pizza back and displaces them and makes it a little bit awkward for a lot of the positioning for the rest of the team trying to keep themselves behind those big shields. It's a great flame strike, goes through, knocks Pizza out of the fight, and this is going to allow X69 to completely roll through as Paradigm Shift as absolutely routed, as I completely whiff on using the same word over and over, because that is exactly what has happened. It's a complete and utter domination by X69.
That's how you just basically put your boot in and shut the door on them, saying, no, you're not going to be able to pass. And we've said before when we've casted the members of X69 that controls seem to have been one of their strengths. They're definitely putting that on display, especially on the mecha base where there are a lot of tight corridors. And looking at their composition, they are well and truly equipped to really make themselves a real nuisance for the members of Paradigm Shift to really deal with.
Yeah, and now Paradigm Shift has switched over back to their favorite 4 DPS lineup, and it's going to be a little bit awkward for them if they're able to set up position around the point and set up those sight lines for them to really control the positioning of X69. They can really get something started, but so far it's not really working out for them. A good kill onto Rani leaves the objective open, but the rest of this defense is going to be able to make their way back to the point, force away this Paradigm Shift offense, and it's continuing to tick up here, Cyber. They're starting to run out of time.
Yes, and get stretched out as well. Despite Pizza hanging around on the point and being a real distraction, it did not bear all that much in way of progress. Pizza's going to try it again, being the hamster on the point and wanted to move into the Mecha Holding Bay. And Hunter just got straight back by Solid Picnic. Nooch has Silas Slimmy G, and the Deadlock Gang has an emphasis on dead. And now X69 are well and truly leading this entire charge. And Paradigm Shift, you have to figure this out. Figure out something to get your way in, and you're going to have to do it extremely quickly.
Absolutely, it's down to the last 10%. Pizza is on the point and does force a reaction out of X69. The sound barrier does come out, sets out a lot of HP on the rest of the members as the ticker is ticking up and no one is on the point as they just let it tick over, and that is just going to be it. X69 just take the round because Paradigm Shift just don't get back onto the point. They tried every avenue, but each and every time they try to get something to stick, they just got the door just shut in their face, and X69 just stamped their authority over Open Division.
And that is how you make a declaration to the entire next steps in Australian Overwatch. We shut out our opposition on control. That's exactly what X69 did, and well, Paradigm Shift, a very big tip of the cap and GG exchange to the entire squad. But when you're just put up against a force like X69 that they've gone through the playoffs, yeah, they were brought to 5 maps in a couple of instances, but they had a clean run from start to finish, and they win this set with a 1 map advantage. To start off with, they win 4 maps to 2, and I believe it was well deserved, and the right team won.
Yeah, absolutely. X69, Paradigm Shift did manage to take those first 2 maps in this series and got off to a really good start, but X69, once they got into that control style, well, not just the control maps, but just the more controlling style in compositions, that is when we saw them really take over. And at that point, Paradigm Shift, they were trying to go back to those quad DPS lineups, but as we saw in the previous series throughout this weekend, when X69 has gone up against a team that is very much known for those quad DPS lineups, they've been able to deal with them the majority of the time. We saw it yet again here.
And sometimes it's just trying to figure out the next piece of the puzzle. Hopefully they'll be able to think of a different way to approach things, different compositions, and watching things evolve over time. But now I want to throw it to our other cohorts, Parodius and Infinity, to break down the final stanzas of that series.
Well, what is there to break down? That was a dominant performance there from X69 Gaming. It looks like maybe finally the day taking its toll on Paradigm Shift. They're unable to bring it back, and just an absolutely dominant shutout as we have Ike once again running over games with Rani as his cohort partner in crime. 2 of them just going absolutely wild. over on Sanctuary, and just another dominant performance here on the mech base as well. What more is there to say?
Nothing much really. X69 just absolutely. They started off a bit slow, but they just absolutely went through and crushed Paradigm Shift in those last few maps. Just Volskaya absolutely destroyed them. 6 minutes 16 going through on round 1, and then quickly capping again to win the map, and then had 100-0 on the mecha base, and then 100 to around 30 on Sanctuary. It was really just a dominant showing all throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that, X69 have been able to crown themselves as the Open Division champions for Season 1 2019. Both these teams will be going up into Contenders Trials for their chance to make it through to the big leagues, or at least the medium leagues. So we wish them all the best of luck in their pursuit there. And I think we will be heading over very shortly for some post-match interviews. I'm just waiting on some of the details of that.
I'm just going to interject here between the analyst panel. I'm actually really curious to see how much X69 really factored in the fact that Paradigm Shift would be so fatigued, because as you did mention, this would have been their third or fourth set of the day, potential 10th map or 11th or so, and I wonder if that even crossed their mind, or they were just feeling so confident because of their advantage that they just did what they knew worked, and it just all fell into place.
Yeah, I think obviously X69 off to a slow start there, but they really pulled it together, and certainly the longer the series went on, the more dominant they appeared.
Yo,
so I think that's a combination of X69 getting into their groove and a combination of Paradigm Shift, just the fatigue starting to get to them. They've pulled out miracles in the past, but it seems like they just weren't able to get this one across the line this time.
And I think that just summed it up. They're just not able to pull it out against X69. But luckily for both these teams, the only thing at stake here was the Blizzbucks, so they'll both be heading to Contenders Trials, and it'll be interesting to see how they cope. X69 really have a chance to, and Paradigm both have a chance to prove themselves on the road to the big stage for their players. It's going to Contenders, and that's just a huge step for these players.
Now, with all that in place, and it looks like everybody on X69 has decided to put their hand up and throw their thoughts in the ring, so we will bring all those in and bring all that to you.
Nice and quiet.
Yeah.
It looks like we may have just a little more time to kill before the interviews are quite ready. So I suppose that begs the question, given what we've seen today, given what we've seen over this weekend, what would you people say, what would you gentlemen say for the actual MVP of what we've seen so far? Who would be our most valuable player here for this tournament?
Big call. Infinity. You go first.
I think it'd be pretty tough to call for the whole tournament. I know for the grand finals, I'd have to say Ike is pretty high up there, but over the whole tournament, we only got to see a select few games. We only saw 2 or 3 of X69. We know Jim's esports really did quite well.
We're just doing analysis for the moment. Just
so yeah, it's a tough pick for the whole playoffs. I know there were some very good players. There's a lot of teams that we couldn't watch as well. So I think it'd be tough to put it for the whole tournament, but for the grand finals, I'd definitely give it to Ike.
I could definitely agree with that. He played so many pivotal roles in breaking attacks and defenses, just with his vast hero. But what stuck out to me was his Tracer play, and just how aggressive and how much of an annoyance. A good Tracer will always be erring on the side of annoying for any defense to deal with properly, and because of his constant high level play that I took on board from observing him, I'd definitely give Ike the crown for MVP.
And I think whole tournament wise, I'd like to point out a few notable players that I've seen. I know Shoko on the Tracer for Jim's Esports was just seemed unkillable at times when we were watching them play. And so now we do have the entirety of X69 waiting here for an interview, so we'll be just throwing it over there and seeing what the teams have to say.
Hello, guys. How are you going?
Hello.
We are very
hello.
good.
So we've got members of the X69 gang here. My name's Mitch. We're gonna go through and do a few interviews with you guys. So, how do you guys feel after like such a huge series?
Really pumped. Yeah.
Do you want me to say it? Do you want me to say it?
Calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had fun and I don't know.
My back hurt.
We had fun. Ike is pretty nice.
Yeah. There's been a lot of chat today, and I think everybody is now a huge fan of Ike. Do you have anything to address to your crowd?
I'm
He
garbage.
can only play Tracer.
I'm garbage and can only play Tracer.
He can play Tracer,
That's about it.
but like he's good. He's good at Tracer.
Shut up, Brady.
Kind of good. He's okay.
Sometimes.
Well, we can hardly call you alive for that.
Okay.
Well, I'm pretty sure you'd be stoked to hear this. We gave you, in amongst the casting brethren, we gave you MVP.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Dude.
Hell yeah. Ike is nice, dude.
We like Ike.
We
Yeah,
do,
so
we,
if,
we do like Ike.
Once we have some actual questions going towards you guys, if you could just say your name so the people know who's speaking. And so, like, what were your thoughts going through on that final point there where Paradigm Shift just failed to get onto the point?
Z9.
That
I
was
don't know what we were doing. We were just. I was looking to who to go on next. And look, it's as simple as no one got on the point.
Yeah.
They entered. Not gonna lie.
Okay, no, shh. Don't be
Well,
Just
some
unlucky.
could even say the same of you guys at the start. It was a pretty slow start to the series, so
Yeah, we definitely
Oh,
entered.
so true.
We definitely entered.
yeah.
The
So
4-hour break.
what do you think changed?
Turn our brains on, to be honest.
Yeah.
We warmed up and used our brains. I'm like,
Yes.
yeah.
Usually we were not very good at the beginning and not very good against COD DPS. So it was like two things together. But slowly when we started working together, it worked.
Yeah, but it was a very good comeback. I think that one map buffer really helped you guys after going through the upper bracket. So I do think you guys have to be commended for your performance throughout the entirety of Open Div, not losing a single match throughout the whole thing, and now going into Contenders Trials. You guys have a huge chance to make a name for you.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty exciting. Not
Very
dropping a map, and it's good for the ego too. So we're going into
We
the
like
trials pretty
Ike.
confident.
Yeah, we like Ike.
I dropped
We
that
like Ike.
reference in the cast to We Like Ike because I do like
Yeah.
Ike.
Hell yeah, man.
And as a note, because you guys are moving into trials, knowing who's on deck for the next stage of Contenders Trials and potentially Overwatch Contenders, do you have any potential dream opponent in mind?
Probably Mind Freak, I guess.
Mind Freak, booyah.
Mind Freak.
Yeah.
Mind Freak really we've been pretty close with them when we know some of the people, so it'll be kind of like a show match with team friends, and also obviously they're pretty favored.
Yeah. they're probably the
Just want to
best
say one
choice.
thing. I love Joel.
And
Yeah, we love Joel. We love Joel.
Joel has helped us.
We
to
love
get there.
Joel.
Joel's the coach of Mind Freak, by the way.
Yeah. So I've got to. Obviously, you guys are high on adrenaline after that, but I've just got to ask: do you see yourselves making it to Contenders?
Of course.
Yeah, if we keep this roster and we keep going at it and practicing as hard as we have been, there's definitely a good chance we'll make Contenders.
Well, this reaffirms my point that there is a strong pool throughout the Australian Overwatch scene from top to bottom, and I am almost certain, because of what you guys have put on display this entire tournament, the bracket that we have observed, you will add to that legacy and do the nation proud. Congratulations on your win and good luck in Contenders Trial.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
And
Thank
just
you.
to close out the stream, this is CappingTV tradition here. When we do interviews, we give everybody the opportunity to shout out a few people. So we'll start from the top with Stolen.
I want to shout out my boy Frogger Overwatch, a true inspiration. And my boy Alan Azo, 123. That's all I have to say. All I have to say.
Great. Okay, Astro, what do you got?
Oh, see the logo? Yeah. My boy Eproxy made that like 20 minutes before the game.
It is a sexy
job.
logo. It should be the Contenders logo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cyberwaste, what do you got?
He's not even on the team, but you know.
Cyberwaste? Yeah, everybody gets shout outs here.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
Whoa, you put me on the spot here. I did
Yeah.
not expect one. So, well, a brief shout, of course, to the broadcast and observation team, but also a very special shout out to my little sister who is 1 year old and a potential LA Gladiator. Ziggy, happy birthday. And all the-
Alright. Young blood. And let's get some Fundre. What do you got?
Wow. Shout out to Joel for actually like helping us and shit. Can I say? Can I swear?
Bondre's there.
Can I swear or not?
Oh god.
I already said it, you know.
Yeah,
some
sure.
words.
And shout out to the Pulse gang for
Yeah.
cheering us on.
Yeah, true.
Pulse
Yeah,
gang.
Rip Pulse. They're actually dead now.
Yeah, they're disbanded now.
Yeah.
Well, like,
Pulse. I love Pulse.
There's
Like-
no pulse anymore. No.
Yeah,
mate,
they're
those
cheering
are a
us on,
cast,
man.
mate.
Hey, well, they
I
didn't
don't
let
know
us
about
cast
that.
their game, so I'm pretty okay with that.
Whoa.
Bitch!
Dude, that's not right. That's
Alex,
not
what do you got?
Absolutely brutal.
Like, you're not wrong, but you didn't have to say it.
Hey,
At any rate.
Ike, what do you got?
Wait, what? What do I have? What do you
Shout
got?
out maybe to
Alright.
Twitch chat.
Okay,
Yeah,
no.
shout out your address.
Oh my. Oh. No. I'd like to say, I love my man. It's Matt. Been watching me. Been messaging me. And then I'm getting spammed by Astro. Telling me to save Zapso, but I'm not. Don't worry if you don't know him. Fine.
What the fuck?
Overall, it was a fun game.
Hey, so-
Astro. No, it was a fun game. My back hurts a little bit though. Whoops.
Oh,
Okay, dude.
man. Infinity.
So I'd like to shout out Peronius at the moment. He's currently streaming, and also just another one to my head coach for my team, CJ2711, who's been watching a bit of the stream. I think he's in a scrim at the moment, but he's a good.
Cool. I'm gonna skip myself and leave it till the end. Noosh.
Look, big shout out to Harleen. You know, he's my favorite as well, and apparently I'm his favorite.
Agreed.
So he's really a big inspiration.
And Rani.
I have a lot actually.
Yeah,
Shout
go
out
for
to
it.
all the competitors,
Oh,
all
no.
the win traders and participants that helped us. Bad to the Bone, Big Sagoy, Jim's Esports, you were great. Paradigm Shift 2. Shout out to all the people who helped us. Jenna, Soap, Joel, or anyone really. And,
Yeah, look, don't forget Jet.
shout out to me playing Wrecking Ball for the first time ever and soft throwing.
Yeah, right. Really?
Soft.
It was your first time? Rack on.
Yeah.
We brought it up yesterday.
But,
We came to it for a stall and it worked out, so we just played it.
Oh, well.
we made every 4 DPS count on the spot. by the way.
Welcome to Overwatch, where weird science happens.
Yeah,
And
shout out to you guys too for casting. Helping out.
thanks for casting.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank
It was our pleasure.
Yeah, well, that basically closes season 1 of the Open Division Australian scene for 2019. We're going to be back next Open Division. We're going to be casting more and more, and it's going to be great. My shout outs to all the teams who were involved and let us cast their games, because it's a hard process to do. Shout out to the Blizzard admins, Battlefy, the casters, Riot Line, who came in very last minute to do production today. And shout out to Team Fortress 2. Good night.
And I
Good
think
night,
on that,
Kings.
I think on that bombshell, that is where we will bid you all adieu and close the book proper on the Open Division of the opening season for 2019. On behalf of everybody here on CappingTV, in the Discord, being X69 Gaming, and the entire Overwatch Australian community, my name is Cyberwaste. Good night, happy fragging, and be the best hero you can be.